Alright, so let's talk about Nightbreed. Now, this was supposed to be Monster Monday, but I couldn't get to it in time, so it's Monster Wednesday at this point. Now, I've seen this once before, but it's been a while, and the director's cut from Scream Factory was pretty cheap, so I picked it up. When I used to have a podcast in the Mic of Madness, one of my co-hosts, Brad Thornton, this was his favorite movie, and that had always made me want to go back and rewatch it, because I was like, really, your favorite film? And this guy's a pretty damn big horror fan. So for him to say that, I want to say he's the only person I've ever heard claim that this is their favorite horror film ever. So that's cool. But I was really curious to go back and check out the director's cut, because I had never seen that. I had only ever seen the theatrical cut, which Clive Barker basically had the studio fuck with this film. We all know how these kinds of things go, and he'd always wanted to have his director's cut come to life. Now, what the Cabal cut actually is versus this, I do not know. If you're looking for like an in-depth discussion of this film from some really knowledged fan, look somewhere else. I don't know fuck all about this, okay? I haven't read the book or the novella or however long that Cabal book story is. I don't know anything about this. This is basically like a first time watch, so I'm pretty confused about a lot of things. So I'll be asking any Nightbreed fucking fanatics out there in the comments to tell me what the fuck, because I'm not understanding a decent amount of this film. We'll get into that. And I was really trying to pay attention. And I'll tell you this, when it comes to movies like this where I'm pretty fucking confused, like, I will go on YouTube, I will go on, Wikipedia, I'll go on shit and I'll read through the whole plot from people that know this shit better than me, that have seen it 100 times. I could give a full plot synopsis from beginning to end on tons and tons and tons of movies that I've seen a lot and love and get. And that's basically what I rely on these things to be, right? So I'll go there and I'll look these things up, and I get fairly annoyed when in moments like this where I have gained nothing, zero extra from going and doing that. And that can take a while. It can take like 30 minutes to go through YouTube explained videos and this and that. It seems like from my looking, now there isn't a lot, but from what I looked for, I couldn't answer a single fucking question I had. So it actually kind of made me like, wow, this really is just as confusing as it seems, because I can't find the answer. Now, as I said, maybe someone will be like, oh, there's a book, and that explains this, or you missed this, and this is not online, and that's fine. Go ahead, let me know. But for right now, man, I am super, super confused. I also know that this movie was originally intended to be a trilogy of films. So maybe those things were going to be explained later, like Cabal finding the Nightbreed a new home and all that shit, and the return of Decker and whatever after his resurrection, which I guess is the real ending of the theatrical cut, but then it's like a post-credit sequence in this one, in the director's cut, and even in the Cabal cut, because I think the Cabal cut is the director's cut with like 25 or 30 extra minutes of like really shitty looking footage inserted back into it. But I don't know like if Clive Barker had any desire for that Cabal cut or not, because he's at the beginning of the director's cut for like 5 minutes talking about how this was his definitive cut. This is what he wanted. He's so excited to present this to us. This is his vision. So the Cabal cut seems like unnecessary added footage if he didn't want it, and it's his vision and it's his film, who he wrote and directed. I don't even know why it exists, but for the hardcore fans that want to see even the deleted scenes that the director didn't even want you to see, it is what it is. Anyways, or maybe those were just scenes that they couldn't clean up because they were too fucked. I don't honestly know. I don't know much when it comes to this. But, okay, the first thing I have to say about the film whilst watching it was instantly it felt like a Tim Burton movie. And of course, when I went to look and confirm, it was Danny Elfman doing music, which made perfect sense because it's exactly what it sounded like. It sounded like Elfman. Composers have their sounds, and you can usually pick out a John Williams or whoever. Like, you know, when I'm listening to Fellowship of the Ring music, I'm like, this is straight up very similar to Titanic. And you can tell that it's, you know, same. But anyway, this is the same with this. He just has his style, and this is a fun style, and it fits this film. And this film feels like it was directed by Tim Burton. If Tim Burton was trying to do a little bit more of an R-rated film during his, you know, original years of filmmaking, he didn't make a lot of R. I'm trying to think back to his career from Big Top, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I kept wanting to say Big Top Pee-wee. That's the sequel, not by Burton. So Pee-wee's Big Adventure, then Beetlejuice, then Edward Scissorhands. Or no. Then it would have been Batman. Then it would have been Batman Returns, and then Edward Scissorhands. But whatever. All those are PG-13. I don't even think his first R-rated film, correct me if I'm wrong, was up until Ed Wood, which is fantastic. It might be his best film. But, yeah, anyway, this just feels like Burton if it was R-rated. That being said, I don't feel like this film is overtly R-rated. But the main focus, and I think what the best and biggest takeaway from this film by far is in its creature design, right? Its creature design is really cool. There's a lot of imaginative, wild-looking creatures and monsters in here, which is the big takeaway. And that's what I do really enjoy about this film. And the look of Decker when he's in his, you know, button eye mask, or whatever the hell you call it. That's awesome. It reminds me of something like The Collector, or something like Sam from Trick or Treat, or, you know, we've seen masks like this before. Now, how Decker sees through that mask, fuck if I know. It looks cool, but practically, or the practicality of that mask, bullshit. There's no way. There's no way he's not seeing anything through those fucking button eyes. It looks cool, though, as I said. So aesthetically, and that's just it. With this film, I feel like this is one of those films that's just more style over substance, and everything is dreamlike, and you're supposed to just take the story as it's presented and to not overthink things. I found that to be very difficult, though, because it presents itself like a pretty straightforward narrative, and it's not all super weird. And like, the film is weird, but what I mean by weird is I mean like a complete disconnection from any form of reality, not even in a narrative perspective. Like, I've seen films where it's just like, no, the story's not meant to be taken in any way. It's just there as an artistic presentation. Like, that's not how this film is. Like, there is a story that's happening here. You've got Boone, and he's having these visions of Midian, and then he has this Dr. Decker, who is a serial killer, and he's making him take LSD, telling him it's lithium, and then he's convincing him that he's the person that's murdering these families because these families are like unpure to the doctor, and he wants to rid the planet of these things. But whilst Boone is sleeping, he's dreaming of Midian, and then he goes to investigate Midian, and when he gets there, he's bit by this monster named Peliquin, and then because Peliquin sees him as immortal, but then the other one is like saying, no, we need to take him down below and have him initiated, but whatever. Or not initiated, but like see the leader dude. But okay, there's just like, I don't understand any of this. Like, I have so many fucking questions that I don't get. Like, why Decker is so obsessed with trying to extinguish the life of Boone. I mean, I get it. He frames him. But then after that, when he finds out that Midian's real, and he's like trying to get the cops to go and kill all these monsters, and he's trying to kill these monsters, I feel like there's such a better story here. There's such a better, deeper, richer story here that just isn't touched upon. Stuff like, the monsters, which I think you can like get this from the film if you want to, but I don't feel like it's properly presented in that way, and you have to kind of fudge those things for it to work. But what I was getting at is like, oh, who's the real monsters here? Because I heard that was one of the problems the studio was having with the film. Like, how do we market this thing? What, the monsters are the good guys, and the cops and the doctor and everything are the bad guys? Like, what the fuck is going on here? How do we market this? It's supposed to be a monster movie. The monsters are bad, the people are good, whatever. I don't give a shit about any of that. Fuck that. As long as the film presents itself well and the story is good, I don't care who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. That being said, like, I get it. I get I get that who are the real monsters kind of question there. But I just don't think that personally, and as I said, there's people out there who love it. Brad's fucking favorite film. I just don't like the way that it's done in this film. I just feel like there's so much more that could have been done with, like, Decker and finding out about the monsters, and him kind of rejecting the notion that Boone is accepted by them when it's really his killings that would have made him more of a monster, that Peliquin can smell on Boone that he's not really a killer, that he's an innocent, and they're going to kill these guys, but he wants to eat him. But then the monsters are kind of presented as good, but then there's like berserkers in there that are bad, but the monsters are trying to kill people anyways, so aren't they really monsters as well? Because Peliquin's going against what these guys are supposed to, that there's some kind of like, rules and bylaws and stuff. Like, and what is Midian exactly? It's just a cemetery where these monsters live. How do they eat? What is the cemetery like? People come there and they feed on them? If that's the case, then they're just monsters, right? So what are the berserkers exactly? They're monsters, like double monsters, like. And then, oh my god, there's so many questions. Like, why would the cops listen to Decker and go in there and just like start executing and like creating this task force to go in and take these monsters out? Like, there's just so many questions. They're almost they're corrupt in nature just by what Decker says to them and stuff like that. I was so confused. There's so many other ways this could have made sense, and the convenience of everything. That's another issue I have with this film. The convenience of everything. Like, the fact that the doctor is just so happening to set up this guy who's dreaming of this monster world. He follows him to this monster world, gets him killed there. But this is right before Peliquin bites on this guy, who he wasn't really a monster. So I'm not really sure how he was attached to this thing at all. But he got there, and it wasn't until Peliquin bites him that he even would become a monster, because it's that bite that brings him back and then makes him the monster. But then he's the Nightbreed, because when the girls, somebody says, one of them's like, oh, he's Nightbreed. I think Rachel or something is her name. She is like, I think that's who does it, and I think that's the name. Whatever it is, but it's like, no, he's Nightbreed. He's Nightbreed now that he's bitten. It would have made more sense if he was Nightbreed realistically, like beforehand. Maybe that would have been addressed in the trilogy, that actually it wouldn't have been Peliquin's bite that made him and turned him. But it's very much Peliquin's bite that turns him. But he shouldn't have been. It should have been he's Nightbreed before. That's why he's dreaming of the place. But I guess he's connected to it because he's like a prophecy. This is why I hate prophecies. I've never been a fan of them in films. But he's like prophesized by this blasphemy, however the fuck, the god, the blood god thing, that the priest like touches his blood and he's like changes him or whatever. That thing like gives him a new name, calls him Cabal, tells him to meet, get the Nightbreed a new home and this and that. It's like some fucking outsider, some human who's just bit, is then all of a sudden going to take over and be their leader, and he knows nothing about these things, and he's not special in any way. Like, I don't know. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't bring anything. What does he do for this film? What exactly does Boone present as like a heroic attribute, or what does he exhibit at all in this film that would make us believe that he is the leader of the Nightbreed? Like, I'm really thinking about his character right now. I haven't even touched my notes. But it's just, when I'm really thinking about the character, I'm just thinking about, like, he's just this guy who has a girlfriend and he's seeking medical, professionals, mental advice. And then he just shows up in Midi and he gets himself bit. And then he's basically, like, tasked with this mission of, like, finding these guys a new home. He doesn't do anything in the movie. Like, you can love the film, and it has a really high rating on IMDb. And I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I think stylistically it's a very cool film. And maybe I'm attacking this film's plot line way too hard, There's plenty of films that are much more style over substance that I love, like Suspiria or something, where I can't explain things that are happening in it. And I don't really need to, because I really enjoy what's happening on the screen, right? And that's fine with this. I think there is that cool style. I think that if you're really into that Tim Burton-esque, more R-rated version of a monster film that you don't really want to think about too much, or maybe you enjoy breaking these things down and being like, well, there are no answers for any of these things, and they're not spoon-fed to us, and I've read the book, and whatever. Okay, fine. But just taking the film as a film fan, as somebody who hasn't read the book, somebody who, just watched the movie for the very first time, and that's just it. There's going to be people who watch this fucking 10, 15, 20 times, and they're going to and shit, you might even get more on the first viewing than I did. I didn't see everything. Some people are just much more perceptive than I am. But when I'm watching them, I don't feel like I should leave, having watched the film and paying attention pretty well, I don't feel like I should leave the movie as confused as I am. And this is the director's cut. This isn't like the studio's fucked with it, and that's why it's confusing. Something like, Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, where the producers and whatnot came in and they fucked with Joe Berlinger's film and completely made it confusing, whereas to what he had intended, his director's cut made perfect sense. And it was this, like, slow progression to madness that ended on this climax that made perfect sense for the arc of the film. This is the director's vision. This is exactly what he wrote, and this is exactly what he wanted us to see. And I'm this fucking confused. And I don't even remember the original version, so there isn't, like, an attachment to that, and I'm not, like, accepting the new footage or the new arrangement or anything. I'm just confused by too many things. Too many things for them to be all explained, and I've missed them all. I've missed them all. No fucking way. No way I missed them all. So, I'm just confused by so many things, as I said. All right, let's, talk about a couple more things, and then let's get out of here. But overall, style is great. Love that opening title card with all the monsters that are shown, and it's kind of a little bit of a spoiler, but it's intriguing and it's very stylistically cool, much like this film is. I love a lot of shots of this film. I think, putting this on in the background, especially certain sequences without the audio, or even with the audio but not really paying attention to the overall story, is pretty cool. It's pretty cool, but man, when you try to analyze this film, I just fuck. But I feel like that's Barker Films, like I feel like with, and I'd like to go back and watch Lord of Illusions. I'd like to go back and watch, some things. But I covered Rawhead Rex on here. I covered all of the Hellraiser films, all fucking 10 of them. And I'm trying to think his other films. I already said Rawhead Rex. I know he didn't direct that one though, right? He only wrote that one. I can't remember if he directed that one or not. What other films did he make? I know there's other films that are based on stuff like, Midnight Meat Train, Book of Blood, stuff like that. That Hulu original Book of Blood as well. They made 2 Book of Bloods. What other films did he write and direct? or even just like be in the be part of the filmmaking on. Am I forgetting anything? I'm sure I am, but at the moment nothing's coming to me. But I need to rewatch Lord of Illusions. But yeah, this is his big special effects extravaganza, and looks great. I realize why now. Had this movie, had the director's cut been released in theaters, do I think it would have done better? No. I think audience would have been just as confused as I am right now. Honestly. There's just so many fucking things. And then there's that Weave World thing, right? That they've always been trying to get off the ground. And this story is supposed to be getting a TV series. Like, I think it was supposed to be last year, but fuck. We'll see if that ever even happens. When Decker comes in and kills that family, there's the freezer door gag where the freezer opens up, he's not there, then the freezer closes and he is there. This is something that the 80s did that no one does anymore. Like, and that's fine, and it's not fine. It's a weird thing because it's so expected from all the horror movies of the past that like everyone now tries to subvert those expectations and not have anybody there when when the doors close, the refrigerator's closed, when they pan over, whatever it is, whatever variation on that scare is. And nowadays, like if the mirror opens up in the medicine cabinet and then it closes, in the 80s, there's always somebody behind them. In the 90s and up, there's never anyone behind them, especially in the 2000s. Like they just eliminated that scare altogether, and it's a subversion of expectations. But it really isn't anymore. Because it's now what I'm expecting. I'm expecting there not to be anything there because of that, that trying to subvert. So it's funny. Now, if there was someone there, it would be more unexpected to me, even though at one point it would have been nothing but expected to me. So it's hard to be original. It's hard to be creative anymore. So many things have been done. This is why truly great films are rare these days, because... Not that there isn't a lot of really damn good films. There sure as fuck is. But like a true, genuine, like 10 out of 10 original masterpiece. They don't make those much anymore, man. They just can't. That's nothing. There's no fault of that. And I think there's a lot of fantastic films these days. But that like wholly original... type of film. That just doesn't. That's just not a thing. It's just almost impossible at this point. Not completely impossible, but you're not going to get a lot of them anymore. It's all been done. So you got to try to find a way to make what's all been done better. Anyway. All right. So let me try to look through my notes here and figure out what I have already said and what I haven't said. And yeah, his girlfriend, him and his relationship with his girlfriend. I feel like this is fleshed out decently in the beginning. And then like in the middle, I feel like it almost completely drops off, which is fine. And then she kills herself to be with him. That's one hell of a risk. But she's a romantic kind of lady. She's taken that grand gesture. And then yeah, okay, conveniences. I had already mentioned this, but the dude that he's in the hospital with after Decker gets hit by a truck, then brought to the hospital, then he runs into a guy from Midian, and then that guy just takes a fucking knife to his face because he thinks it's a test and starts like cutting his face up to prove to this guy that he's actually from there. And then he gives him the directions to how to get there. But then the guy... I don't know. Now I'm thinking about it. I don't even know how the guy got there. Because he's there later. How did he get there? He didn't... Wait. Yeah, he didn't go with him. How the fuck did that guy get there? I can't remember how he got there. I'm sure it's explained in the movie. Or actually, I'm not sure in this movie, but... The guy who cuts his face up, how does he get there from the hospital? Because he's like, that's another hilarious part, is that guy screaming out. It's fake, isn't it? Isn't it fake skin? What's under him? And every one of these monsters is so different, which is fine, but it's just, But anyway, this guy's cutting away what is, I guess, his fake face, but he's screaming in agony. Not sure why he'd be screaming in agony, but whatever. He's screaming in agony, maybe because the flesh is actually part of his face, and what's underneath you have to rip away from it. I don't know, whatever. But he just so happens to run into a guy from Midian who tells him where it is, and then he like does this thing, and then literally, like, I would say bare minimum 15, but I'm thinking maybe even upwards of 20 or higher people run into that room, leaving the dude, leaving Boone, but just so many people run in there to see what this screaming is about in a hospital, in a fucking hospital. Like, how many patients are screaming out help and are having pain? You're not sending the entire fucking hospital. Like, every single person ran past. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous scene. It was so many people. It was, as I said, it was at least 15 people ran past. It's so many. It's so many. And at this point, was Decker being looked for by the cops? Boone. Had Boone been looked for already? Had Decker already kind of like turned him in, or I think he had, but I can't remember now. I watched this yesterday, and I've watched 4 movies since. I need to record this shit right after, man. But whatever. But whatever. He gets out of there. If he was being looked by for the cops, I feel like he was, but maybe I'm wrong on that. But if the cops had him in the hospital under like watch, and that distraction of the guy yelling out was how he got out of there, which I think is what happened, but I might be wrong on that. If that really is the truth, that's fucking piss poor. Like, every single person, including the people who are supposed to keep him in there, runs past him. No fucking way. I don't think... That's probably not true, because that's so stupid. There's no... Well... with this movie, I don't know. And then, when Peliquin's arguing with that dude or that monster on whether or not he can eat him, he's like, he's meat! This reminded me of The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys. And then, yeah, the doc convinces the cops that Boone is armed, and so they shoot him to death. But is he dead? No, because he can't actually die now that he's been bit. And then, oh yeah. So we find out that the killer is actually Decker, which, is that meant to be a reveal or not? Because if so, it's bad. It's bad. It's so obviously him the whole time. I don't think that's meant to be a twist because of how obvious it is, but it kind of felt like it was supposed to be. Like, oh my god, it's actually his doctor. Bro, no one fell for that. No one fell for that if that's the case. I don't think he's ever shown to be the killer until maybe 30 minutes in or 20. I don't think he's ever shown before that. Like when he kills the family and all that, and then Boone's... I don't think he like outwardly says it. Could be wrong. I hope he does, though. I hope that it's told to the audience pretty early on, because man, is it bad if it isn't. It's so clearly him. And then I like how Decker comes and puts this girl's like under the counter and she looks at the feet and he puts like the head on top. She can like see his feet walk up, puts the head on, severed head right on the table. She immediately comes up and there's no one there but the head. And then from behind her in this like room, so he has to like come out of a room that's behind her and behind her to kill her, is Decker. So he walks in the front, and then as soon as she pops up, somehow he's behind her. how is this possible? How is this possible? He's not a monster. I mean, he's technically a monster. He's a terrible person, but he's not an actual monster, so he doesn't have any abilities to like teleport or anything. So how the fuck is he here and then he's there? I got nothing. And then he also kills an entire room full of people and somehow does not knock over a deck of cards, like one of those card houses, and it's really big, and it's one of those ones that if you even like tap the table even with your fucking index finger, you just like very lightly tapped on the table, the whole thing would collapse or crumble. It was like Columbo. I don't know what the fuck I was trying to say there. Actually I do. It was a combination of those two words that I was just saying, but it came out wrong. Anyway, I was looking at the house like, man, he's surgical. He's a doctor, right? He's Dr. fucking Card Decker. It's the deck of cards that he doesn't knock over. That's why they call him Decker. Ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. And then there's like this full-on war, as we talked about, between them. And I like how that guy with the tentacles that are like coming out of his stomach or whatever, there's like a gun pressed to his chest, and the monster like puts the tentacles up in the air around his neck, grabs the guy through the eyes, is fighting him, this and that, and then kills the guy, and then he drops. And during that entire time, when a gun was pressed to his chest and the dude's finger was on the trigger, this guy's tentacles come up around, go around his neck, do the whole thing, go into his eyes, everything. And the guy never pulls the trigger once. This is the slowest fucking reaction in the history of cinema. Really? He never pulled the fucking... As soon as he saw this thing even like move out of his chest, he would immediately pull that trigger and blow his ass away. This is so fucking stupid. Why stuff like this makes it into films is outrageous to me. I know it sounds like I'm hating on this film, and I'll get a lot of fucking flack for that, because I know that this is pretty beloved by some people, and they hold it in such high regard. So me kind of trashing this film right now, seemingly, I feel like I've said more negative, much more negative. Yeah, I guess I kind of am trashing this film. Yeah, I don't know. Style's not enough, so I guess I am trashing the film. It's a cool looking film. I like the music. I like the aesthetics. Character design, his costume, the music, the cinematography, all that stuff looks great. But story for me is no good. Not for me. This one just does not work for me. It's too confusing. And there's people out there, they don't care. They like that kind of ambiguous nature to things, and like, oh, can't spoon feed the audience. I can agree with you to an extent, but you have to give the audience something to go with. And to me, it doesn't work, but I'll get comments being like, you're a moron, this is how, these are all the things you have a problem with, were you even watching the movie? Fine, fucking prove me wrong, lay them down in the comments, and I will apologize. I'll be like, oh, fuck, you just laid it all out. I clearly missed all those things. Thank you. I'd love for that to happen, because I'd like to like this movie more. Maybe I'll go back and rewatch it with those notes and be like, how the fuck did I miss this? Perfect. Do it to me. Make me look like a fool. Trash me below. I don't give a fuck. And let's see. I don't know why I even wrote that down. Goes to shoot monster with a rocket launcher, and it hits a car. That's such a non-note. Sometimes I take notes and I'm just like, what'd you write that for? Was that interesting? It must have been when I wrote it down. I just can't fucking remember why I found that interesting. And then that's it. I don't. Anyway, it's a 35-minute review, so that's a lot of talking about a movie that I didn't even really like that much, but I got the thing here. Now, new director's cut, 40 minutes of footage, master high definition, introduction, audio commentary with restoration producer Mark Allen Miller, and more. New interviews. Why wouldn't Clive Barker himself, since he's sitting there with him and he wants to talk to him about this fucking thing, why wouldn't Clive Barker be on the commentary? I'm assuming someone's going to tell me, like, oh, listen to the commentary. They'll explain everything. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. You can't fucking explain things in a commentary. Shouldn't take a commentary to explain your film. So if that's your answer, fuck off. That don't work. I don't even mention that David Cronenberg himself, the director, is Decker in this, which is really cool. I mean, I feel like I could give his performance in this film, though. Like, certain performances, I always feel like I could do that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm full of shit. My acting would be terrible. But I just feel like the real quiet, somber, downtrodden, kind of emotionless guy, I don't feel like it'd be acting. I mean, on the channel, I'm a lot more peppy and kind of springy and full of life and whatnot. But there's definitely a lot of times in my life where I'm kind of like Decker in this, where I'm just kind of like talking slow and just, thinking about things and looking around and looking serious. Like, I could do this. I could do this for a film. No problem. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm not saying it's a bad performance. It's not a bad performance. That's not what I'm saying at all. All I'm saying is that if you want an actor to kind of play a performance like this, I got it. I can do that. I don't know much else what I can do. I don't think I can fake laugh. That's always been one of my things that I would fear. Being in a movie is I couldn't fucking pretend to laugh. Like a legitimate laugh. I don't know how people do that. They must just like really find something funny and just laugh. But like a fake laugh to me is always a fake laugh. Anyway, I'm done. Adios.